The phone call came at 2 in the morning, Tokyo time. I was 6,000 miles from home, working on a contract that would keep our family business afloat for another year. The lawyer's voice was clinical, detached. Ms. Brennan, I'm calling to inform you that your mother has made changes to her will. You've been removed as a beneficiary. The words didn't make sense. What? Who authorized this? Your mother signed the documents yesterday. Your sister Olivia was present and assisted with the arrangements. Before I could respond, I heard the phone being passed. Olivia's voice came through, calm and steady. You made your choices, Catherine. You chose work over family. Now you live with the consequences. In the background, I heard our mother coughing. That wet, rattling sound that had become familiar over the past months. Olivia, wait. The line went dead. I sat in my hotel room, staring at the wall, my laptop still open with spreadsheets that suddenly seemed meaningless. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate, calculated. While I'd been sending money home to keep everything afloat, my sister had been planning this. I couldn't sleep after that call. Instead, I opened my banking app and scrolled back through 6 months of transactions. Wire transfers to the family business account. Emergency payments to vendors. Payroll shortfalls I'd covered personally. 20,000 in March when the equipment failed. 15,000 in April for late supplier payments. 12,000 in May to cover employee salaries when cash flow dried up. Every transfer had been made at Olivia's request. Just temporary, she'd said. Just until Mom gets better. Just this once. No one ever called it help. It was just what family does. Meanwhile, according to social media posts I'd scrolled through bitterly, Olivia had been the devoted daughter. Photos at the hospital. Status updates about caregiving. Friends commenting about what a good sister she was. I'd been the one keeping the business alive from 6,000 miles away. She'd been the one getting the credit. Now I realized something worse. My financial support might have funded the very lawyer who'd just called to tell me I'd been erased from the will. My email chimed. A forwarded message from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line. FYI, thought you should see this. I opened it carefully. The original email was from Olivia to the family lawyer, dated 3 weeks ago. Before the will had been changed. Before I'd even known Mom's health had declined that much. Thanks for meeting with me yesterday. I think we both agree that cleaning things up now will prevent complications later. Catherine has made it clear where her priorities lie, and I don't want her complicating things when decisions need to be made quickly. She continued. Once the ownership issue is settled, we can move forward with the restructuring plans we discussed. I'll have the business valued as soon as possible. The email was professional, strategic, not the words of a grieving daughter managing a crisis. The words of someone executing a plan. One sentence stood out, made my breath catch. Once the ownership issue is settled. What ownership issue? The business belonged to Mom. The will would control inheritance. I called Aunt Patricia, hoping for sympathy. Instead, I got a lecture. Catherine, you abandoned your family when they needed you most. Your mother has been dying, and you couldn't even be bothered to come home. Olivia has sacrificed everything to care for her. I've been sending money. Money isn't the same as being there. You chose your career over your mother. This is what happens. Friends from home stopped responding to my messages. The few who did wrote variations of the same theme. You should have been here. You made your choice. Olivia is the one who stayed. The narrative had been written. I was the villain. The absent daughter who cared more about work than family. Olivia had been preparing this story for months. Every social media post. Every conversation with relatives. Every carefully worded update about Mom's condition that painted me as distant and uncaring. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus, a longtime employee at the family business. Catherine, I don't want to get involved in family stuff, but something doesn't add up. Can we talk? Marcus and I had worked together before I'd taken the overseas contract. He was the operations manager, had been with the company since my father was alive. If anyone understood how the business really worked, it was him. We connected on a video call. He looked uncomfortable. I probably shouldn't say anything, but Olivia's been asking weird questions. About liquidation timelines, asset transfers, whether certain contracts could be revised or cancelled. What kind of contracts? Vendor relationships, employee agreements. She asked me to compile a list of which assets would sell quickly. He paused. Catherine, she's not talking like someone who wants to keep the business running. She's talking like someone planning to cash out. My stomach dropped. Did she say anything about ownership structure? That's the other thing. She asked me about the articles of incorporation. Wanted to know who was listed as officers. Who had signing authority. He looked at me directly through the screen. I told her I'd need to check the files. But here's my question. Do you still have your old documents? From when your dad was alive? I stayed up until dawn, digging through digital files I hadn't touched in years. Cloud storage folders labeled Business Archive and Dad's files. I found contracts I'd forgotten about. Email chains from my father explaining decisions. Amendments to the corporate structure made during the financial crisis 5 years ago. Then I found it. A signed agreement dated 3 years before my father died. His careful handwriting on a cover letter explaining why. Catherine, someone has to protect this business from family emotions. Your mother loves the company, but she doesn't understand it. Olivia wants the status but not the work. You're the only one who really cares about keeping it alive. This protects that. The agreement restructured operational ownership. It wasn't about inheritance or the will. It was about performance-based control. Whoever kept the business solvent maintained operational authority. The language was clear. Shares tied to active management, to financial contribution, to keeping the company functioning. I'd been covering payroll, saving vendor relationships, maintaining operations from overseas. Without knowing it, I'd been fulfilling the exact conditions my father had built into the agreement. I flew to Singapore to meet with an international business attorney who specialized in cross-border inheritance disputes. Her office overlooked the harbor, glass and steel and absolute confidence. She reviewed everything I'd brought. The agreement, the transfer records, the emails showing my financial support. This is interesting, she said after 20 minutes of silence. Your father was very clever. This agreement separates personal assets from operational business interests. What does that mean? The will your mother signed controls personal property. The house, savings, personal effects, but operational control of the business. That was restructured years ago under this agreement. The will doesn't touch it. So Olivia removing me from the will affects personal inheritance, not business control. She looked at me seriously. Your sister's entire victory is built on a misunderstanding, or arrogance. Either she doesn't know about this agreement, or she's hoping you don't. What happens now? That depends on what she does next. If she moves to liquidate or transfer business assets, you have legal grounds to stop it. But if she acts first and creates complications, she paused. It could get messy. I stopped trying to explain myself to family members. Stopped responding to accusatory messages. Let them believe I was defeated. The silence had an unexpected effect. Olivia grew bolder. Marcus sent me screenshots of her messages to employees. Plans for restructuring. Discussions about potential buyers. She was moving fast, confident that nothing could stop her. She scheduled a major meeting with the family lawyer. Final arrangements, she called it in an email I was copied on by accident. The meeting wasn't about grief. It wasn't about honoring Mom's wishes. It was about finalizing control before anyone could question it. I booked a return flight but told no one. Not Marcus. Not Aunt Patricia. No one who might tip off Olivia. The secrecy felt strange. Like I was the one doing something wrong. But I was protecting what my father had built. What I'd kept alive. Every hour felt like borrowed time. Every day I waited gave Olivia more opportunity to create legal complications that would take months to untangle. Then Marcus called, his voice shaking. "Catherine, your mom's condition has gotten worse. They moved her to hospice yesterday." The guilt hit like a physical blow. My mother was dying, and I was plotting legal maneuvers. What kind of daughter was I? But then Marcus said something that crystallized everything. Olivia told the hospice staff she's the only family available. She's positioning herself as sole decision-maker. This wasn't just about inheritance anymore. This was about erasing me completely. Making sure I had no voice, no authority, no presence in our mother's final days. "When's the meeting with the lawyer?" "Yes. Day after tomorrow. She told everyone you couldn't handle facing the truth, so you wouldn't be attending." Closed my eyes. Tried to separate grief from rage from the clear-headed focus I needed right now. "I'll be there," I said. "But don't tell anyone." The flight was endless. 14 hours of turbulence and bad coffee, and my mind running through every possible scenario. I landed at dawn. Went straight to a hotel near the lawyer's office. Showered. Changed into a suit I'd packed specifically for this moment. Professional. Composed. Unshakable. The meeting was at 2. I had 8 hours to prepare. I reviewed every document again. Made notes. Rehearsed what I'd say if given the chance to speak. Practiced staying calm when what I really wanted to do was scream. At 1:30 I called Marcus. "Where's the meeting?" "Conference room at Stewart and Associates. Downtown." "Catherine, everyone thinks." "I know what they think. Let them think it." At 1:45 I walked into the building. The receptionist looked surprised when I gave my name. "Ms. Brennan. We weren't expecting." "I'll let Mr. Stewart know you're here." I sat in the waiting area. Watched the clock. Felt my heart hammering against my ribs. This was it. No more waiting. No more silence. At 2 o'clock exactly the conference room door opened. Every eye in that room carried judgment. Relatives I'd grown up with. Business associates my father had trusted. My Aunt Patricia. Olivia's friends who'd come for moral support. And Olivia herself, sitting at the head of the table where our mother should have been. She barely hid her smile when she saw me. "Catherine. What a surprise." Her voice was sugar-sweet. "I wasn't sure you'd make it. I wouldn't miss this." Mr. Stewart, the family lawyer, looked between us. Cleared his throat. "Well, now that everyone is present we can begin. Mrs. Brennan's will is straightforward in its current form. All assets pass to Olivia, with the exception of some specific bequests to." He continued reading. I let the words wash over me. Watched Olivia's satisfaction grow with each sentence. Then Mr. Stewart paused mid-sentence. Looked at his notes. Frowned slightly. "Before we proceed further, I need to clarify something. Can we confirm the operational ownership structure of Brennan Manufacturing?" Olivia stiffened for the first time. Just slightly. But I saw it. "The business ownership is covered in the will," Olivia said quickly. "Everything passes to me as outlined." Mr. Stewart shook his head slowly. "I'm asking about operational control, not inheritance of personal assets. There was a restructuring several years ago that I'm seeing references to in the corporate records. That was just paperwork. Dad reorganizing things before he died. It doesn't affect anything now. Actually, I'll need to review the documentation before we can proceed. This could significantly impact the estate distribution." Olivia laughed. The sound was forced. "This is unnecessary. Everything is already settled. My mother's wishes were clear." "Your mother's wishes regarding personal assets, yes. But operational business ownership may be governed by separate agreements." He turned to me. "Ms. Brennan, do you have documentation regarding the corporate structure?" The room went silent. Every eye turned toward me. I reached into my bag. Pulled out the folder I'd carried 6,000 miles. Slid it across the table without saying a word. Mr. Stewart opened the folder. Started reading. His eyebrows rose slightly. Olivia leaned forward. What is that? An operational ownership agreement, Mr. Stewart said, still reading. Signed by your father and Catherine 3 years before his death. Registered with the Secretary of State. Completely legal and binding. That's not possible. Olivia's voice was sharp now. Everything belonged to Mom. The business was part of the estate. The business facility and equipment, yes. But operational control was restructured. This agreement transfers decision-making authority to whoever maintains active financial and operational management. He looked up at me. Have you been financially supporting the business operations? Yes. For the past 6 months, I've covered payroll shortfalls, vendor payments, and operational expenses. I have bank records documenting every transfer. And were you receiving compensation for this? No. It was keeping the business solvent while Mom was ill. Mr. Stewart turned pages. Read more. The silence stretched on. Olivia's face had gone pale. This can't be legal. Mom owned everything. The will. The will covers personal assets. This agreement was filed separately and governs business operations. Mr. Stewart looked at her directly. Did you know about this agreement? Of course not. Olivia's composure was cracking. This is some kind of trick. Catherine probably forged those documents. She wasn't even here. She abandoned. The documents are notarized and registered with state authorities, Mr. Stewart interrupted. They predate your father's death by 3 years. Unless you're suggesting he forged them. Olivia opened her mouth, closed it, looked around the room for support but found only confused faces. I don't understand, Aunt Patricia said slowly. What does this mean? Mr. Stewart explained patiently. It means that while Mrs. Brennan's will controls personal property, it doesn't affect operational control of Brennan Manufacturing. That was restructured years ago. The business has been operating under this agreement since your brother-in-law's death, though perhaps not everyone realized it. But Olivia has been managing everything, someone protested. Has she? Mr. Stewart looked at the financial records I'd provided. According to these documents, Catherine has been covering significant operational expenses from overseas, maintaining vendor relationships, ensuring payroll was met. Those are the actions of someone in operational control. Olivia pushed back from the table. This is ridiculous. I demand a recess. I need to consult my own attorney. That's certainly your right, Mr. Stewart said calmly. But before we break, I need to ask. Have you made any plans to sell or liquidate business assets? Her silence was damning. Olivia! Mr. Stewart's voice was gentle but firm. This is important. If you've entered into any agreements or contracts regarding the business, we need to know now. I've been in preliminary discussions with potential buyers. Just exploratory. On whose authority? I'm the executor of Mom's estate. I have the right to. You have the right to manage personal assets. But the business operates under a separate agreement that gives Catherine operational authority. He paused. Any contracts you've signed may not be legally binding. Olivia's face went from pale to red. This is insane. Catherine disappeared to Japan or wherever for a year. Tokyo. For a consulting contract that pays 3 times what the business currently generates, I said quietly. Money I've been sending home to keep the business afloat. You abandoned Mom when she was dying. I've been on a video call with Mom every single day. Paid for her medical care. Covered the expenses of keeping her comfortable. My voice was steady. You were there physically. I was there financially. We both made choices. The room was silent, uncomfortable. People were starting to see past the narrative Olivia had crafted. I think we should take a break, Mr. Stewart said. Reconvene in 30 minutes after everyone has had time to process this. I stayed in my seat while the room emptied. Watched Olivia rush out, phone already in her hand. Aunt Patricia lingered, looking confused. Catherine, I didn't know about any of this. Nobody did. That was the point. Dad wanted the business protected from exactly this kind of situation. But Olivia said you chose work over family. I chose work that could support our family. There's a difference. I met her eyes. Did Olivia tell you about the payroll shortfalls? The vendor bills that weren't being paid? Did she explain where the money came from to keep everything running? She looked away. She said the business was stable. It would have collapsed 3 months ago without the money I sent. Ask Marcus. Ask the accountant. Ask anyone who actually knows the numbers. Mr. Stewart returned with more documents. Sat down across from me. Ms. Brennan, I need to be clear about something. This agreement gives you operational control, but your sister will inherit your mother's personal assets. The house, savings, personal property. You understand that? I understand. I don't care about the house. I care about the business my father built. The employees who depend on it. The legacy that actually matters. He nodded slowly. That's what I thought you'd say. When we reconvened, Olivia had a lawyer with her. A sharp-looking woman who immediately tried to take control. My client disputes the validity of this operational agreement. We'll need time to review. The agreement is valid, Mr. Stewart said firmly. It's been in effect for 7 years. Registered. Notarized. There's no basis for dispute. Then we'll discuss buyout terms. My client is willing to purchase Catherine's interest. I'm not selling, I said. Everyone looked at me. Olivia's lawyer frowned. I'm sorry. I'm not selling my operational control of the business. It's not for sale. Catherine, be reasonable, Olivia said. You can't run the business from overseas. This is ridiculous. I've been running it from overseas for 6 months. Rather successfully, according to the financial records. You can't do this. Mom wanted me to have. Mom wanted you to have her personal estate. You do. The house, her savings, everything in the will. But the business was never part of that. Dad made sure of it years ago. Olivia's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. I watched the realization spread across Olivia's face. She'd built her entire plan around controlling everything. Now she was realizing she'd won a battle that didn't matter and lost the one that did. This isn't over, Olivia said, standing abruptly. I'll fight this. You'll what? I asked calmly. The documents are legal. The agreement is valid. You can hire a dozen lawyers, but they'll all tell you the same thing. You don't own what you thought you did. You planned this. Her voice was rising, composure completely shattered. You waited until Mom was dying to. I planned nothing. Dad planned this years ago because he knew the business needed protection. I didn't even remember the agreement existed until last week. Understood. But now that I do, I'm not giving up what he trusted me to preserve. You're stealing from your own family. I'm protecting the business from being liquidated for a quick payout. That's not theft. That's honoring Dad's wishes. Mr. Stewart cleared his throat. I think it would be best if we take some time to let everyone process this. Ms. Olivia, you're welcome to seek independent counsel. But I can tell you now, they'll confirm what I'm saying. This agreement is solid. Olivia's lawyer was already packing her briefcase. She knew a losing battle when she saw one. Ms. Catherine, the lawyer said, if you're willing to discuss terms. I'm not. The business will continue operating. I'll work with the current team to ensure stability. But operational control stays with me. Over the next week, everything Olivia had built began to unravel. Family members started reaching out to me privately, apologizing for believing her version of events. Employees at the business sent relieved messages. They'd been terrified of being sold off to a larger company that would lay them off. Marcus called daily with updates. People are breathing easier. The customers we were about to lose have agreed to stay. Even the suppliers are more cooperative now that they know someone's actually in charge. But there were consequences for Olivia. The narrative she'd crafted, the devoted daughter, the responsible manager, collapsed when people learned she'd been planning to sell the business. Friends questioned her motives. Business associates distanced themselves. The meeting with Mr. Stewart to finalize everything was brief. Ownership documents were filed. Corporate records updated. My name officially recorded as having operational control of Brennan Manufacturing. What happens to your sister? Mr. Stewart asked. She inherits Mom's personal estate. A house worth $500,000. Savings. Everything Mom actually owned personally. That's not nothing. But not what she wanted. She wanted everything without working for it. That's not how Dad designed this. Pause. Is there anything she can do legally? Contest the agreement. She could try. She'd lose and waste money on lawyers in the process. My professional opinion. She'll accept reality. Olivia requested a private conversation 2 days before I was scheduled to return to Tokyo. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground, where neither of us had the advantage. She looked exhausted, defeated. The confidence that had carried her through months of planning was gone. I don't understand why you're doing this, she said quietly. I'm not doing anything. I'm accepting what Dad set up years ago. You could sell. We could split the money. Move on with our lives. You could have suggested that before you removed me from Mom's will. Before you told everyone I abandoned the family. Before you tried to erase me completely. She flinched. I was protecting Mom's interests. You were protecting your interests. There's a difference. Catherine, please. I need this. I've sacrificed everything. You sacrificed nothing. You lived in Mom's house rent-free. Used business funds for personal expenses. Let me cover the actual costs while you played the devoted daughter on social media. My voice was calm, factual. I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. And my decision isn't personal. If it's not personal, then why are you doing this? Olivia asked. Because the business matters. Because 40 people depend on it for their jobs. Because Dad trusted me to protect it. Because I'm the one who kept it alive when you were planning to sell it to the highest bidder. I would have gotten a good price. And then what? Those 40 employees get laid off when the new owner consolidates operations. The brand Dad built gets absorbed into some corporation's portfolio. Everything he worked for gets reduced to a line item on a spreadsheet. I leaned forward. That's not what he wanted. That's why he structured things this way. So I get nothing. You get Mom's house, her savings, her personal effects, everything she actually owned. That's not nothing. It's not enough. Then you should have thought about that before you tried to take everything. Before you manipulated a dying woman into cutting me out completely. I softened slightly. Olivia, I don't hate you. But I won't let you destroy what Dad built just because you feel entitled to it. She was crying now. Real tears. But I couldn't tell if they were from grief or frustration or just the realization that she'd lost. I never wanted it to be like this, Olivia said. Then what did you want? I wanted to be the one who mattered, who people depended on, who made the decisions. She wiped her eyes. You always got everything. Dad's attention, his trust, his plans for the business. I was just the daughter who stayed home. You chose to stay home. I chose to build a career. We both made choices based on what we wanted. And you got rewarded for it. I got responsibility. That's not the same as a reward. Pause. Everything I did was legal, Olivia. Patient. Documented. Dad set this up to protect the business from emotions and family drama. I'm just honoring what he created. So what happens now? I return to Tokyo. Finish my contract. Work with Marcus remotely to stabilize the business. In a year maybe I move back full-time. Maybe I hire a manager. I don't know yet. And me. You do whatever you want. The house is yours. The savings are yours. You can stay. You can sell it and move. That's not my decision. She looked at me for a long moment. I really thought I'd won. You did win. Just not what you thought you were fighting for. She wanted everything without working for it. That's not how Dad designed this. Pause. Is there anything she can do legally? Contest the agreement. She could try. She'd lose and waste money on lawyers in the process. My professional opinion. She'll accept reality. Olivia requested a private conversation 2 days before I was scheduled to return to Tokyo. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground, where neither of us had the advantage. She looked exhausted, defeated. The confidence that had carried her through months of planning was gone. I don't understand why you're doing this, she said quietly. I'm not doing anything. I'm accepting what Dad set up years ago. You could sell. We could split the money. Move on with our lives. You could have suggested that before you removed me from Mom's will. Before you told everyone I abandoned the family. Before you tried to erase me completely. She flinched. I was protecting Mom's interests. You were protecting your interests. There's a difference. Catherine, please. I need this. I've sacrificed everything. You sacrificed nothing. You lived in Mom's house rent-free. Used business funds for personal expenses. Let me cover the actual costs while you played the devoted daughter on social media. My voice was calm, factual. I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. And my decision isn't personal. If it's not personal, then why are you doing this? Olivia asked. Because the business matters. Because 40 people depend on it for their jobs. Because Dad trusted me to protect it. Because I'm the one who kept it alive when you were planning to sell it to the highest bidder. I would have gotten a good price. And then what? Those 40 employees get laid off when the new owner consolidates operations. The brand Dad built gets absorbed into some corporation's portfolio. Everything he worked for gets reduced to a line item on a spreadsheet. I leaned forward. That's not what he wanted. That's why he structured things this way. So I get nothing. You get Mom's house, her savings, her personal effects, everything she actually owned. That's not nothing. It's not enough. Then you should have thought about that before you tried to take everything. Before you manipulated a dying woman into cutting me out completely. I softened slightly. Olivia, I don't hate you. But I won't let you destroy what Dad built just because you feel entitled to it. She was crying now. Real tears. But I couldn't tell if they were from grief or frustration or just the realization that she'd lost. I never wanted it to be like this, Olivia said. Then what did you want? I wanted to be the one who mattered. Who people depended on. Who made the decisions. She wiped her eyes. You always got everything. Dad's attention. His trust. His plans for the business. I was just the daughter who stayed home. You chose to stay home. I chose to build a career. We both made choices based on what we wanted. And you got rewarded for it. I got responsibility. That's not the same as a reward. Pause. Everything I did was legal, Olivia. Patient. Documented. Dad set this up to protect the business from emotions and family drama. I'm just honoring what he created. So what happens now? I return to Tokyo. Finish my contract. Work with Marcus remotely to stabilize the business. In a year maybe I move back full-time. Maybe I hire a manager. I don't know yet. And me. You do whatever you want. The house is yours. The savings are yours. You can stay. You can sell it and move. That's not my decision. She looked at me for a long moment. I really thought I'd won. You did win. Just not what you thought you were fighting for.